themselves.
Hey, good morning, crew. My name is Thomas Mackey. I'm with the University of Louisville History Department and with the Brandeis School of Law at U of L.
I'm Hank Chambers. I'm at the University of Richmond School of Law. I can't tell if Shane's walls are Carolina blue or Duke blue.
I'm Rita McCannon. I'm an attorney in Huntsville, Alabama, and I'm so thrilled to be with y'all today and listen to what you have to say to us.
Why don't y'all go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yeah.
Hey, good morning. I'm Scout Mason.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Tate.
I'm David Kim.
I'm Jack Abplanalp. We're all seniors at Raleigh Charter High School, and Ms. Klein is our teacher.
All right, let me read the question and then you guys can launch in, eh?
Sounds good.
Unit 3 reads, question 3 reads as follows. In 2020, we celebrate the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which recognized the right of women to vote. Despite recent controversy, the Equal Rights Amendment has not yet been declared ratified. What are the similarities and differences between these two amendments? What impact, if any, has the 19th Amendment had on women in achieving equality with men in the United States and around the world? And what are the advantages and disadvantages of states passing their own equal rights amendments rather than ratifying a national constitutional amendment? You may begin.
The ratification of the 19th Amendment was a pivotal turning point for women's rights in the U.S. Women gaining the right to vote advanced both their economic and reproductive rights, as women can now take an active role in politics. This allowed for laws such as the Shepherd-Townshend Maternity and Infancy Protection Act of 1921, which founded programs for prenatal and infant health to be passed. Furthermore, other government actions such as Title IX of 1972, a law that prohibited discrimination on the basis of sex in federally funded education, and the FDA's approval of the birth control pill in 1960 reflected women's increased influence on the government.
The right to vote also further guaranteed economic rights for women, as they advocated for equal pay and job security during pregnancy, among other things. After the 19th Amendment was passed in the U.S. in 1920, many other countries followed suit with their own version of women's suffrage in countries such as Spain, Ireland, and the UK. Though these might not be a direct result of the 19th Amendment, the boost in women's suffrage peaked in the early 20th century around the time of the ratification of the 19th Amendment.
The similarities between the 19th Amendment and ERA are stark. As progressive amendments, both the ERA and the 19th Amendment call for changes from the current state of our nation to create more explicit equality. Also, both amendments face opposition from both men and women. Anti-suffragists during the early 20th century included women from the upper class, as the system was benefiting them at the time.
After the passing of the 19th Amendment, many women believed they were done in their fight for equality, but others pushed for the Equal Rights Amendment, believing that the Constitution should include women. But when the ERA was brought up for rediscussion in the 70s, a strong group of anti-feminists formed against it. This group, which included Stop ERA and Phyllis Schlafly, argued that the ERA would take away special statuses granted to women, such as dependent wife benefits under Social Security.
The difference between the 19th Amendment and the Equal Rights Amendment stemmed from the difference between an ultimate goal for suffragists and a realistic achievement during the time. The 19th Amendment was a milestone in equality between men and women in the United States, but fell short because it only guaranteed the right to vote and not complete equality as the ERA would.
While the 19th Amendment mirrors the 15th Amendment, the Equal Rights Amendment is similar to the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, explicitly giving equal protection under the law to everyone, not abridged on the basis of sex. The most important difference lies in the support behind these two amendments, as the 19th Amendment, although tough to pass in its own right, had more support because it was supported by both progressives like Alice Paul and also moderates, whereas the Equal Rights Amendment has faced an uphill battle because moderates do not support it in its entirety.
While the Equal Rights Amendment has not been passed as a constitutional amendment, it or a version of it has been passed as a state constitutional amendment in 38 states. Using state constitution to affect the United States comes with advantages and disadvantages. By the very nature of state constitutional amendments, they're much easier to pass individually than it is to pass a national amendment due to the onerous process detailed in Article 5 of the Constitution, the greater diversity of Congress compared to state legislatures, and the possible use of methods such as referenda for amending state constitutions. Additionally, the amendments passed in each state can be more specific to the state and its population.
On the other hand, passing state constitutional amendments comes with downsides, as they can also be more easily changed. Furthermore, confusion is created by the difference in constitutions between states. And lastly, whereas a national amendment would show a national support of equal rights, passing state constitutional amendments portrays a fragmented and divided nation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Interesting. Lots to chew on there. I think I want to come in and start the questioning. I'll start sort of follow up on a point Ms. Tate started on is help me understand better the relationship between the 14th Amendment, in particular the Equal Protection Clause, and the 19th Amendment.
Can you repeat that question?
Sure. I wanted to follow up on a point that Ms. Tate made a few moments ago, and that is that she talked about a relationship between the 14th Amendment, particularly the Equal Protection Clause, and the 19th Amendment. Well, if we already have an Equal Protection Clause, why the 19th Amendment? How does that work? How does that work over time? How do you understand the relationship between those two amendments and clauses?
To answer your question, I see the 19th Amendment or the 19th Amendment and the 15th Amendment clearly have there's a gap. I mean, there's a bridge there between based on the races the basis of race and the basis of sex. But the 14th Amendment and the Equal Rights Amendment have a similarity in that they both guarantee equal protection to a certain while the 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection to all. The 19th Amendment kind of narrows that into just on the basis of sex, and while the Equal Rights Amendment would provide equal protection to all sexes.
So do we get anything more from the Equal Rights Amendment than we already have under the 14th Amendment?
I think that if we pass the Equal Rights Amendment, we would gain more. I think a big problem right now in discrimination on the basis of sex is just people's opinion on the topic. I think that we need a lot of social change. For example, only 24% of the House of Representatives is made up of women, and I think that that passing an ERA would help, boost that and get more people to vote for women.
Yeah, I think the ERA is really necessary to be put in our Constitution because it would have a judicial standard for cases based on sex discrimination and move sex discrimination to a strict scrutiny level rather than an intermediate scrutiny level.
Okay. I'm curious. Y'all mentioned that Ireland and UK allowed women to vote after the 19th Amendment. Yet both of them already have had women prime ministers. Why are we still behind the curve?
As we saw in our current or the primaries that were happening very recently and for our upcoming elections, our general population doesn't see that a woman is strong enough to be president, or doesn't think that a woman can beat certain candidates of the other party, and so they feel discouraged from voting for women because they don't think that the woman could beat the other party.
Adding on to that.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
Adding on to that, there was a recent study done that most people that didn't vote for a woman in the Democratic primaries actually believe that they didn't vote for them because they didn't think that their neighbor or someone they knew believed that. So there was a kind of a gap in that area also.
So do you see this as more that we're not electing women as more as societal and not as a legal or an amendment to our Constitution? What do you think is going to help that change it?
Like I said earlier, I think the Equal Rights Amendment, passing it as a constitutional amendment, would help social change. I think that a lot of the problem is people will not go and vote for a woman, but if there's something in our Constitution that says we cannot discriminate on the basis of sex. I think that would sort of trickle down from the top, from laws not being able to discriminate, and then it trickled down to our citizens.
So what do you think about Joe Biden's promise to choose a woman as his vice presidential running mate? Does that kind of violate the spirit of the ERA, or is it completely consistent with the spirit of the ERA?
I think that there are many women qualified to be Joe Biden's vice president. Is that the best decision for his administration? I can't tell you. I think that it's really important to have see women in power as representation for half of our population. As Scout mentioned earlier, we don't have that representation of 50% of women in Congress. So I think that a woman in the vice presidency would be a wonderful thing. But I do think that it sort of goes against the ERA as not discriminating on the basis of sex, sort of putting it out there that I think it's good that he thinks it's important that he should have a woman next to him, but I don't think that it's maybe the most important thing that he should.
What I'm hearing, and we've only got under a minute now, so very quickly, I'm hearing that this ERA may be important for symbols, but the real change is going to become through cultural change. So which is it? Is the ERA important for constitutional or legal purposes, or is it just a symbolic change, and the real change will only come through cultural change? Help me out.
I'm going to go ahead and say both. I want
to put you on the horns of the dilemma.
Okay, I'll go ahead and say social change then. I think that...
So the ERA is, we don't need it. You can continue.
I think that having that trickle down from the top of not being able to discriminate on the basis of sex will trickle down to everybody, all of our American citizens. So I think it would be a big social change.
I think that's an article of faith more than reality, but that's a good answer.
Yes,
Look,
sir.
This is a tough question. I think that it looks like an easy topic, but in fact, you push through very much into the heart of it, and it turns out to be pretty subtle in terms of cultural change, constitutional issues, legal issues, and the choices that people make, as you folks did, I think, a really nice job of laying out both some of the legal and constitutional issues, but then also the cultural structures that women's rights, women leaders face in United States society here in the 21st century. So I think you did a really nice job.
Go for it, Rita.
I really was pleased that that you set out the various problems that we have with regard to this issue. We might have really, really qualified women, and we have had, not might. And if they're really qualified and really smart, then they're abrasive. They're too mean. They're this or that. You all are grappling with the very thing that I have already grown up with. Hank knows all about, and as does Tom Mackey. But it's going to be a very difficult thing to resolve, and you all set it out just that way. And I appreciate your effort, and really the efforts that you have given as seniors when you could have laid out and said, I don't want to fool with this. And yeah. I'm so impressed that you've done this hard work, and you've done it at home, and you've done it in a time where none of us have ever experienced this before. So thank you all.
I agree. This is it's a hard question. And I like the fact that you all noted that we have heightened scrutiny under the 14th Amendment, and the ERA presumably would give us strict scrutiny. And that's a change, which is important, but there's a recognition that we have some of that already. It's hard because when we look at having had the 19th Amendment since 1920, we can't seem to elect women. That would seem to suggest that we're morons. And it's tough to just look around and say, yeah, we're Americans and we're morons. But at some level, the notion that we have to change our culture and our attitudes with respect to women and running things is one where we kind of scratch our heads and say, will the ERA do that? or do we need to look at ourselves? And that's a hard constitutional question because it's about who we are as a people.
Right.
Fortunately enough, I'm more than halfway to the grave. You all are the ones who have to fix this. So that's just your task. Go fix it. And, I'll appreciate it. And you can do it with some help from Ms. Klein. But hey, just go ahead and take care of it, and I'll wait on you. I'll give you.
By that standard, I'm not sure I'm going to make it through this interview. But go ahead.
so go for it. But no, you guys did a fantastic job, and I hope you all had. I hope you all had fun. We had fun.
Right.
And you all really have done a wonderful, wonderful job. And I hope that whatever the rest of the day brings you, it brings you some joy.
Right. And congratulations to your team.